This is your home for St. Cloud State hockey, keeping you up to date on the NCHC.
One-timer, come in, they score! Ripped in! A bomb from Pervix!
Women's WCHA.
So Dana Rasmussen fires and she scores! Dana Rasmussen for the Huskies alongside
The National Hockey League.
Dwayne Kaprizov in for a chance to win it! He scores! Kirill, the thrill is for real! Welcome to the NHL, a game winner!
And everything from the state of hockey.
St. Cloud Cathedral is now 42.6 seconds away from wrapping up the school's first ever title.
Welcome to the Huskies Warming House Podcast Den. The Huskies Warming House podcast is also brought to you by the Soda Pod, home of NCAA college hockey news and more. Stay wild and up to date with new episodes throughout every week. Find them on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and other podcast platforms. Welcome into the Huskies Warming House podcast. Nick Maxton alongside myself, Noah Grant, for episode 200 here in the den, and we're approaching somewhere around 250 overall. Yeah, are you waiting for the Nickelodeon slime? You had that reaction.
I was waiting for something to drop. Oh, wait, it just did. So,
yeah, it's as we talked about last week. For those of you who missed it, of course, we have probably about 7, maybe 8 episodes max coming out of the Huskies Warming House podcast. Left, we are done after this season. We had a pretty strong announcement at Warming House Den on Twitter, X, whatever it's called now. You can definitely catch up on that. We had a pretty lengthy discussion, maybe about 12-13 minutes to the open of our show for 199 last week. But yeah, 200. Whether or not you consider a podcast good or not, I've always heard a lot of people, quote unquote, in the biz, which sounds about as vague as it gets, but yeah, 200 is a lot. And a lot of people say even 100 is hard to get to. I mean, it encapsulates 4.5 years of our work. So, and truly, as we mentioned before, we're a lot closer to actually probably 250 with the interviews and things that we've done. So, yeah, it's been a certainly crazy ride, and never in our wildest dreams, I didn't think we'd get to episode 20, let alone 200.
There was a moment where we were sure if we were going to get to episode 2 after how things started, honestly, where to not give away the game a little bit, but let's just say that we had an idea, of how we wanted to present the package, and there was other folks on board, and then literally on day 1, those folks disappeared. So yeah. We'll share more details on that once we get closer to, shall I say, the final ribbon cutting, as we say, because since we've already jumped the shark, I think we can already say that. But
here's an interesting trivia question for you. Speaking of show history, what episode number is our lowest listened to show? Like it essentially our show that has had the least number of audio, video views. What episode was it, and how many plays does it have?
I'm going to guess episode 3 and 19.
It is episode number 7.
Okay.
6.
And I wonder how many of those are us.
Yeah. me reviewing it to make sure it worked 4 times, probably.
Pretty much, yeah.
That was us coming right out, I think, like week 2 or 3 after we came back after about a month hiatus during the initial swing when we were pushed away from school because of COVID.
Yep. I was going to say.
Yep. So certainly the early years. So yeah, to get to 200 after that, again, as Nick kind of alluded to, double digits was even a question mark at some point there. But nonetheless, we start episode 200 with some little bit of controversy, I suppose, on Friday night in the men's game against Western Michigan. The men's team ultimately does take 4 possible points on the weekend, all things considered. We'll get into that series. On the women's side, we don't have a video breakdown for you this week because it was a very successful weekend for the women's side, so we'll recap those games quickly and then also talk a little bit about the fact that they've got a big week coming up.
So they do.
Very much so, as the WCHA quarterfinals start this upcoming week. You won't want to miss it. We start with Center Ice View News and Notes, presented by HuskiesIllustrated.com and the Soda Pod. Center Ice View News and Notes. Center Ice View provides you with the best coverage of St. Cloud State Huskies hockey, from game notes, recaps, photos, and more. Go to CenterIceView.com. Episode 200, Nick Maxon alongside Noah Grant here in the Den, the Huskies Warming House podcast. We start with the men's hockey team, Nick, and this was a weekend in the NCHC. We started to see a little bit more fluctuation. I think the biggest surprise, and we're going to kind of talk about this, the NCHC standings have continued, at least through that number 6 spot, to tighten up even more. I mean, we were at this point where we thought the top 4 was going to be kind of interesting. The middle of the pack, maybe like 3 through 5, was going to be kind of interesting. Now we've got kind of that 6th spot slowly creeping up with 2 weeks left in the regular season coming up here. I know we start every year thinking that this is going to be the year where, you know, we're going to continue to see that parity and we don't really know what to expect. I'll take a look at some of our previews that we did this season. One thing we have gotten right so far is Duluth is likely to probably finish in 7th. Everyone scoffed at us about that. That might be the highlight we have. Other than that, we pretty much missed the mark on everything else.
Good news is I think a lot of other people missed the mark in the middle. I think the only thing that maybe we really also missed was North Dakota.
Yeah.
You know, to be honest, but everything else has been a crapshoot. So at the end of it, no, I'm not that, shall we say, upset by that, because again, it's been kind of topsy-turvy, and let's just say that either way, you do predictions to see how wrong you are, not how right you are. So
yeah, unfortunately for us, a lot of our big changes also came on the WCHA side. If we're talking predictions, the women's team, we'll get to them, but actually, you know, had they gotten a couple of those early games in January, we might be having an interesting conversation about additional games at the Herb Brooks National Hockey Center. But anyhow, we will get to them, of course. Last weekend in the NCHC, when we talked about fluctuation, well, essentially, here's what we're talking about to cap off the month of February. Let's take a look here from what we saw. Western Michigan and St. Cloud, of course, doing battle. We'll talk about them in just a second. Meanwhile, Minnesota Duluth was really no match for North Dakota. 6-0 on the first night, 4-2 on the second. Pretty much the response you maybe expected from the Fighting Hawks after somewhat uncharacteristic weekend against Colorado College, who has been suddenly surging. We talk about the Tigers, by the way. How about the fact Omaha stealing a couple of points from them, 3-0 on that first night, and then winning in a shootout 2-1, essentially tie by proxy in the pairwise against CC on Saturday. Those games were at Baxter Arena in Omaha, and that put them back in contention to make things interesting this upcoming weekend. Game gave Denver a bit of a sniff to kind of move up a little bit more. Well, Denver took control on Saturday 8-1, but how about we go back? Denver needed a shootout victory 4-3 against the Miami Redhawks on Friday to kind of get the job done. So, you know, certainly got a little bit more interesting than I think Denver would have really liked. We've seen that in the NCHC. Nobody has really gotten an opportunity to pull away with some separation because every team has kind of given fits here and there. Now, I want to mention this, Nick, before we get to the standings, and I talked about this in our MNCAA group chat, and maybe this is a bit of a reach. Not that we've ever done that before on this show.
Never.
Am I wrong in thinking that there is more than a 25% possibility that Miami Redhawks team, I don't think they're going to win their first round in the quarterfinals, but I think they have an opportunity if they can get a game to maybe overtime or cling on to a 1-goal lead. I think they could push that first round series to 3 games. I don't think that's out of the question.
So here's the good news. It's never out of the question when you're talking college hockey. Unfortunately, I can't buy it as more than 25% just because I know who their opponent's going to be. It's likely going to be North Dakota. And let's just say this. I don't think North Dakota is going to overlook Miami, who gave them a scare earlier in the season at Oxford. So I think North Dakota, with the opportunity that's in front of them, is going to take advantage of that. Now, I think let's dig a little deeper, right? I think what essentially the other thing you're saying is Miami is a better team than what their record is showing. And I don't disagree with that. The issue is that a lot of the powers that be, the casual college hockey fans, look at Miami, they look at the win-loss column, and that's how they judge the hockey team on. Sadly, they are being judged on that right now. So you can look at progress in two ways, right? I think they are playing better. The question is knowing where Colorado College has found ways to turn those losses into wins. Miami just simply hasn't gotten there yet, especially within the conference. So it's, again, you never say never. We've seen stranger things in college hockey. For Gophers fans, Holy Cross. For St. Cloud, it's AIC. Not to, take away a scar or anything like that, but again, it's never zero, but I don't know if it's above 25% as you may think.
Right. The thing that is nice compared to years past, though, Miami, I mean, they've had a couple of good weekends, gave North Dakota fits. Denver, of course, last weekend, they're not getting blown out of hockey games necessarily that we've seen, although, of course, the Saturday result was a good response from Denver, something we've seen close to years past. Like I said, I don't think, in a 3-game series that they come out with 2 victories, but I certainly think that they can make at least one of those games interesting, maybe push it to 3 games. And that just speaks to the parity of the NCHC, which will have an 8-team playoff for the last time this year. Next season, of course, it's going to change as well. Let's take a look at those NCHC standings, by the way. North Dakota, as you mentioned, in first place by essentially a single game. All teams have played 20 to this point. North Dakota with 43 points in line for the Penrose as we speak. Our St. Cloud State Huskies at 40 points. Denver at 36. Good little 4-point cushion, so to speak. But, guess who the Huskies have this weekend? The team behind them in the Denver Pioneers. Colorado College, 2 points behind them, holding that last home ice spot at 34 points. Bit of a disappointing weekend for them, but they do pick up an extra consolation point in the Saturday contest last weekend. Western Michigan, 31 points at 5th place, and then Omaha, now only 3 points shy in 6th at 28. If you want to be technical about it, essentially a weekend away from a home ice spot. Colorado College, 6 points from that 4th place spot. Minnesota Duluth, not totally out of it in terms of getting to that 6th spot, but that's going to be about it. Essentially, they're chasing Omaha to try to get a better seeding advantage. Right now, it would actually be a date with a very common first-round matchup that we've seen. They would actually be Duluth and St. Cloud if the playoffs started today. And then Miami with 7 points going to get the first-place team no matter what. So, Nick, we essentially take a look at these Husky games, and a game in which Brett Larson admittedly talked about on night number 1 for St. Cloud, despite being in control scoreboard-wise for a fair majority of this hockey game, I don't think he was enamored with the play that the Huskies had. This was just one of those contests where St. Cloud maybe kind of punched above their weight class relative to the way they played, versus I think Saturday the Huskies did a little bit better, just controlling from start to finish. Western Michigan out shooting St. Cloud in night number 1, 34-22 in front of a crowd of 3,500. 10-3 Western in the first period, which makes it all the more interesting that the Huskies were the only team to score in period number 1. Huskies outshoot Western 10-9 in the second, get outshot 13-8 in the third, and 2-1 in the overtime session, which would ultimately go towards the Broncos, who did not have a power play opportunity in this game. Good discipline from St. Cloud, who also went 1 for 3 on the man advantage. So all things considered, doing all right. Just a shade under 500 in the faceoff dot. 34 wins, 36 losses for St. Cloud. Scoring did get started, though, Nick. As we mentioned, 1 of only 3 shots in the period. 13-33 mark. Adam Ingram found Ethan a coin for the first goal of the contest.
That's intercepted. 2-on-1 the other way. Adam Ingram now. A coin. Fanned on the chance. Opportunity, though, falls. The Huskies strike first. A fortuitous bounce off of...
In the offensive zone, you'll see Bump heals one, and it becomes a 2-on-1. It was great recognition by Western on the bounce. I like the slide here. Did a really good job of trying to prevent the pass, and St. Cloud is stuck with it. Ingram with a really nice pass across ice, and St. Cloud was able to stick with it.
Bit of a broken play in transition, Nick. Maybe trying to go essentially tape to tape back and forth there, but hitting the back of the goaltender, you'll take them any way you can if you fan on the initial opportunity. Again, good play, 2-on-1 in transition. The Huskies fortunate to get out of that first period leading 1-0. But that's kind of something we've been missing from St. Cloud games when they haven't played their best, is turning those defensive opportunities into transitional plays and a good finish ultimately for St. Cloud.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with their defensive positioning, too. The entire first game, St. Cloud had both of their wingers high on the defenseman. You saw there a blind pass, what he thought was going to be, I'm talking about the Western Michigan defender, blue line to blue line, thought it was going to be tape to tape. All it was there was a white sweater. And then, as you mentioned, in transition, they're good 2-on-1. Huskies had a couple of odd man breaks in that first period. And Ingram, maybe 4 inches off the ice, right? But just enough to get over the stick. And then Ethan Aucoin, right? Sometimes you got to get a bounce, right, Noah? Yeah. Sometimes you got to be able to be opportunistic. And I would characterize most of this game for St. Cloud's offense as opportunistic, not something that I would say they generated and, maybe earned. And, to kind of put into perspective why Brett Larson wasn't necessarily happy with this play, spoiler alert, I don't disagree with them on that. And then how about Aucoin, right? You fan on the shot, but you stay with it, right? And then the IQ in the moment to bank it off the back of Cameron Rowe to get you on the board. Again, Huskies thoroughly outplayed in that first 20, and to get that opening goal, maybe trying to settle things down, that was huge for St. Cloud.
Certainly. St. Cloud's best period was the middle period, and they capped off their scoring in this hockey game in the second period with a pair. We actually had to wait 14 and a half minutes into the middle frame. Mason Sahlquist finding Kyler Kupka his 12th of the season for the Huskies.
On the line with Michaels and Phillips on the right.
Oh, a chance now, and Kyler Kupka knocks it past Rowe to double the Huskies in
face-off. Coming off of a delay with an injury gives the offensive team a lot of time to discuss what they might want to do. This was one where Western Michigan actually got the better of the draw. Look how well St. Cloud went to work to get the puck back. Started with Kupka, who just blew right through his check. There's an old saying on face-offs, bumps before a rout.
And that's just the will to want to find the back of the net there, Nick, right? I mean, it's not often you see a guy who's on the half wall off of a face-off outmuscle his defender and beat the weak side defenseman to get across the crease and score a goal like that. I mean, that's why he's got 12 goals on the year.
Doesn't that goal remind you almost like a Joel Eriksson-Ek type goal where, off the face-off and you're just winning a couple of battles, again, loose puck, you cut towards a little bit of open ice that you have, and not only you're able to shield it, but then you're catching Cameron Rowe in the push off with the legs wide open. I mean, that's just, there's skill and there's also some strength in that goal. Very nice for St. Cloud. As you mentioned, their best period was the second, and nice to cap it off with the late goal there by Kupka.
If you're talking wild players, almost reminded me of the Mikhail Granlund 1-0 playoff OT winner from all those years ago, coming off the half wall, winning a battle, just kind of fighting through a couple of checks and ends up in the back of the net. Speaking of guys that can put the puck in the back of the net, well, after this point, it was the Alex Bump show. Just saying. Essentially, 29 seconds later after, Luke Granger found Alex Bump for his 10th of the season. Western Michigan within one, just like that.
Third goal for Kupka now in his last 5 games. Here's Bump the other way. Alex Bump, the Minnesota native, striking on home soil. Great response.
Big statement by Western Michigan. Great track back. Look how many numbers they get back, and they backtrack through the middle of the ice. Good sort outs. No space for St. Cloud State in the middle lane. And then they layer the attack going back the other way as St. Cloud State doesn't sort out as well. So Western wins the back check, and then they win the transition coming up ice, and Bump had all the time in the world.
Yeah, and as former 2-time podcast guest Dave Starman mentioned, this is one of those times where the Huskies get burned in transition, right? They're not able to essentially fend off the counterattack, not picking up guys trailing, not able to backcheck appropriately. And pretty goal. Hate to break it to you, it's not the prettiest goal he's going to score in this hockey game. But just like that, Western Michigan essentially climbs right back into this one.
And how about Bump patiently, right? You talk about the entering the zone in layers, right? Yes, I think Starman mentioned that as well. But, to be able to have the patience to not be too far ahead on that play, and Bump again with the patience. And like you said, it's not the prettiest goal maybe by the eyes, but that shot was perfectly placed. Yep. I mean, it was 13 inches off the ice. It was far post. Not a lot that Isaac Posh can do on that shot. I mean, that's a goal scorer's goal. And again, just a great transitional play by the Broncos and a beautiful execution on that zone entry with the layers in that goal being scored by Alex Bump.
Certainly would agree. Credit St. Cloud, though. I mean, they stuck with it. They did grab that 2-goal lead right back before the end of the period. Really only took them a minute and a half later. Jack Peart, Josh Lidke, the defensive pairing, finding Zach Okabe on the power play, his 9th of the season. Huskies take a 3-1 lead into the final 20 minutes of regulation.
Don't over chase.
Costantini this time trying to push Peart outside the zone. The shot, though, finds the back of the net. Peart had the chance. Okabe with the touch. Power play goal.
Gorgeous little redirect in front of the net, taking eyes away from the goaltender, Nick, going to the gritty areas of the ice. Have we ever mentioned this guy named Dave Shayak and grease pan goals before?
I think we have a picture of the cast iron pan with the pucks in it from 2021 during the national championship run. I believe that's still there, if I recall. But yeah, no, I mean, and were your hairs in your back standing on edge just a little bit with that move from Jack Peart at the blue line?
Yeah.
That's a gutsy play. And for those watching at home or listening for your young kids, that's not a play that I think any coach, no matter what skill set you have, would want you to play there to turn your back against the play to shield it. But for Jack Peart, who can usually make the right play, makes it happen, and gets the eyes up. And as you mentioned, Zach Okabe, he had two sticks on him. Noah in the slot was able to fight it through, redirect it past Cameron Rowe, who was in good position, but just found the little opening, I think, to his right side. And as you mentioned, power play goal, Huskies regained that 2-goal advantage.
Yeah, and you kind of felt like St. Cloud, maybe a little bit fortunate to come out in a 2-goal lead entering the final 20 minutes of regulation, but you hope they were going to run with it. Well, within 7 minutes, that lead was erased. We started the 4:16 mark. Alex Bump telling an assist to Luke Granger this time, a bit of a reciprocation on the opening goal. 3-point night for Alex Bump overall, and just like that, Western Michigan, you'll see both of these goals almost identical in some senses, the way that they're able to create rebounds off of essentially a pop play.
Another great season for the Bruins. Here is Bump, deflected in front, backdoor, Dylan went, another for number 37. 3-2, our new score.
Good work in the corner as Western Michigan wins the battle, and Bump, really good puck control. He's shooting for sticks, tips, anything, and that thing just snuck through a little bit of a puck with eyes. So the first key is he gets it past the defenseman. That's the number one part of it. Granger in front, gets a bit of a stick on it, went.
And I mean, no chance for Isaac Posh on that one of his essentially his first Friday night start, going kind of back to back with him. I thought he played fairly well. I mean, nothing he can really do on that one, Nick. Similar MO to the way the Huskies got on the board for their third of the night. If the goalie can't see it, I don't know much, but it makes it a lot harder to stop it.
Yeah, and in Western Michigan, really from the drop of the puck to the overtime winner, which we'll get to, that was an area that they wanted to attack all night. Was they wanted bodies in front, they wanted to create screens, they wanted to really push the ice up. They really wanted to collapse the offensive zone for the Huskies, really make them sort things out, and more so just make it chaos in the house, right, Noah? And that's one of those times where I think some of the adjustments that we saw was bringing a forward up to create another passing option for them. Again, the 2-2-on-1s in the first definitely was something Pat Firschweiler wanted to avoid again. And then making sure pucks are getting through. I think St. Cloud, one of the things that they did really well in the first two pairs is blocking shots out high. This is what happens when you get a puck through and there's all that traffic. Sometimes it does find its way. It does have eyes sometimes, no, as we call it in the business, and it was able to sneak through Posh. It's now a 3-2 game. Huskies clinging on to that 1-goal lead.
Yeah, and you talk about plays in transition. How about Pat Firschweiler's club turning the other direction? Owen Michaels finding Ethan Phillips for his 9th of the season less than 2.5 minutes later. Just like that, we were all tied up at the end of regulation.
Puck won by Ethan Phillips now along the wall. The Nova Scotia native up to Michaels. He'll wind and fire. Hush the initial stop, but it is Phillips there on the rebound, and we are all tied at 3.
Perfectly placed puck, Nick, and I'm just going to say, one of the most underrated goals of the weekend. I love that play. You practice it so much in practice, just trying to create a rebound. He knows he's probably not going to beat the goaltender clean. Hey, he's got F1 driving to the net on the weak side. He gets inside positioning on his defender. Just like that, Nick, in transition, the Huskies get burned again.
He starts it and he finishes it, right? He carries the puck out of the defensive zone, kicks it out wide, and then beats Carl Falk. And I don't want to call out any one Huskies defender, by name, but Falk was beat clean on that zone entry, as you mentioned, inside position. And then, as you mentioned, the winger to recognize the play at hand didn't have maybe necessarily the clean look. He was further out. It was not a goal scorer's type situation on the ice. So he did the pop play, right? You go far pad, you look for that rebound to come straight out. It did. And then, as you mentioned, Western Michigan forward is in the right spot, stick down. He's able to tap it home. Again, nothing much more Isaac Posh can do. And we are all tied at the Herb Brooks National Hockey Center.
Yeah, and we were tying after regulation, although a minute and a half before that, you wouldn't have thought so if you were a Huskies fan. We're going to get to that. Let's recap the actual scoring that, well, it counted on the score sheet. Anyway, 2 minutes exactly into overtime, Alex Bump, his second goal of the game, 11th of the season in 3-on-3. This one was a pretty one. Seals the deal, at least officially on the score sheet. Western Michigan takes the victory in overtime.
Colangelo with speed to Bump. He'll cut it back. Alex Bump with the game winner! The second of the night for the freshman. Welcome back in the NCHC standings.
From the drop of the puck in overtime, it's been Western Michigan's puck. Colangelo with a great regroup. St. Cloud State got the change, even up the numbers. Just a tremendous individual play by Bump. Bump healed one in period number 1. Turnover went the other way, and they scored. Since then, he's been the best player on the ice. Or if not the best, he's been in the top 3, and he finishes it with a goal scorer's goal, low glove side, after some nice lateral movement here to get himself into a good...
Nick, I mean, just a great individual play. Nothing you can really do about that one. Sometimes you just have guys, goal scorers in overtime, step up in big moments. Alex Bump, after period number 1, essentially was maybe one of the best players on the ice, as Dave Starman alluded to. He had a very good game down the stretch. Whether or not you believe the Huskies should have been in overtime, Western Michigan was probably the better team in this game. I think... if you want to be fair about it, hockey gods wise, the result probably dictated about where we should have been. St. Cloud was efficient enough scoring wise to earn a point out of this hockey game. Western Michigan was the better team ultimately. How about that move at the end?
There are times in hockey, where you just have to tip your cap.
Yeah,
you really do. And that is example 1A. There's a reason why Alex Bump is a Philadelphia draft pick. And I can only imagine, because for those who may have forgot, he was originally committed to Vermont and then reopened his commitment after some off-season, shall we say, unpleasantries within that organization. And I can only imagine how many phone calls he got. Decided to go over to Western Michigan, and let's just say he's felt pretty comfortable there at the Broncos. And just that curl and drag, and again the whereabouts to get the eyes up, and then get picked almost the same spot on Isaac Posh there, right above the glove there, and just again a very quick snap of the wrist, and it was in the back of the net in a hurry. That's a hell of a play by a goal scorer. That's a skill play. Again, Huskies, had the change. I thought they actually got back in position well, but when you make a move like that and give yourself some open ice, there's not a whole lot you can do to recover from that. And again, that's just a great individual effort by a great skilled player.
Yeah, beautiful exaggerated toe drag and release for the game winner. Well, if you're a Huskies fan, though, you thought under 2 minutes to play in regulation, you should have never been in this spot. We thought St. Cloud and Mietin had the Huskies on the board for the eventual potential game winner, so to speak here. We're going to run through it from a couple of angles. We've got some slow-mo videos here, got the view from the corner as well, but let's run through the actual play in real time as heard on the broadcast.
Pearce at the blue line. Cassetti on his feet, ready to exit the box. Okabe across, wide open backdoor. What a save by Cameron Rowe. How did he get open backdoor? And the senior somehow makes the stop.
What a play by St. Cloud State. What a C pass, and the kid I like to call the cowboy, Cam Rowe. Look at Derek Jeter here. Pass across. Look at this dive. Wow.
Now there was some question. Werner Miettinen pointing, saying he made that save after it had crossed the goal line. Oh, he's got a point, Dave.
Well, you got to be able to see the puck. So this one will go to review, and Todd Anderson is the replay official who is just to our right.
Regulation.
I will tell you this, it's not really conclusive that the puck's in. I don't think it's a goal.
Here comes the verdict. Yep. So it becomes...
Now, Nick called no goal on the ice on the initial play. Reviewed, nothing conclusive to overturn it. That's the only one with audio we have. We do have a couple of looks at it that we'll take a look that we can talk over here, Nick. You know, and first of all, I think the part that, you know, is most important, and we'll kind of take a look at this here first we'll do the overhead cam first, I think, then we'll go from the corner, and then we'll slow things down from our overhead camera here. In real time, Nick, this one is still a tough one because we've had conversations before that, yes, you know, this goal in the past, if the goaltender's glove is all the way across the line, we've called it a good goal before. The only problem is every time you rewind it through, logically from a hockey perspective, you can say, yep, we see, you know, the flash of the puck going in the glove. Everybody in the hockey world knows this puck is across the line just from what we've seen before in a hockey game.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, Nick, you were actually up near the broadcast team on Friday night. This isn't an NHL building. This isn't an NHL rink. This isn't NHL quality video where you're getting beautiful slow motion frame rates here. Unfortunately for St. Cloud, that might be the difference here. Even as we look at this corner angle, Nick, very evident this glove is all the way across the line.
So you mentioned glove, but you forgot to mention one thing, puck.
Oh, is that important?
Yeah, right. And that's really, and so after the game, the NCHC official, we spoke to him. And I should say, when I say we, see myself, Alex Heinert, and Dave Starman had the wonderful opportunity to shadow those guys this weekend up with CBS. So much thanks to them and the whole CBS crew. They were excellent on Friday night. I have to definitely tip my cap to them. But he just simply said, we got to see it. And the standard is I have to see the puck and I have to see white ice between the puck and the red line. So we can inference, as you mentioned, Noah, right? In those two, you can make an inference, but that is not the officiating standard. And that would actually challenge with this. In fact, Noah, on this overhead look, if you see the whatever streak you can, I don't know if the puck is actually across the line. The streak looks like it's hitting almost his wrist area. So again, the vectors, as some would say, isn't necessarily in St. Cloud's favor. Regardless, there isn't a clear view of that puck. And as you mentioned, I shared this video too in real time with our group chat. And again, you know, I think there was a moment of shock there for a moment. But when you watch it back over and over and over again, this was a lengthy review, at least 3 to 4 minutes of review. You just simply cannot properly identify the puck and it being across the line. Again, and to me, it's not necessarily a quality issue. I know some folks say, well, this is kind of blurry. This is a frame rate issue. There's just no way that the frame rate is high enough where, you know, it's similar in photography, right? If you want to capture fast motion, you got to be quick. And this camera, and mind you, these are the same cameras that have been up in the herb for probably some time. And granted, I take pride as a graduate of that broadcast school, and I know they take pride in having the best angles possible. This camera just simply wasn't fast enough to be able to pause it at the right moment to see the puck across the line in the glove, wherever you may be, so that way they could clearly and conclusively, the two key phrases there, to make that call. It sucks because you can see watching the bench for Brett Larson, he was not happy with that call.
Yeah,
I don't blame him for not being happy, because you would want to, I would think, if anything, make sure that if the call was a goal on the ice, I don't even think that's overturned either.
Yeah, I agree.
Just because of the video, you know. So I think that's the bigger question here: is what doomed this play was the call on the ice, because there was nothing in that video, regardless of what the call on the ice was, that was going to overturn it.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing, so this final look, as we showed you, the quick little slow down video, for those who are kind of missing the streak of a puck, I slowed this video down to 2% of what the live speed is. This is like the best look that I can slow it down, even putting an arrow towards where the streak is, where this puck is coming from. You can see, I mean, there's the streak if you're looking at it on our YouTube page.
Yep.
Like, that's it. This is the moment where it's just coming across the crease before it's going to enter the glove, hit the cheater, the crook of the arm, whatever it truly was. Nonetheless, what we can tell you is even if it went in the net, it didn't stay out of the net for long. Even you can tell, I mean, pretty much 95% of the glove, and where a puck would sit inside the actual piece of the glove, logically, if he truly caught it in his glove, the puck's in the back of the net. From those of us who have played the game, even if you haven't played the game, the puck's in the back of the net. You look at the corner angle, which gives a really good look of if the puck is truly in that webbing, that glove is over the line. Now, the other thing that dooms this play, Nick, and this is a quite obvious one here, what a hell of a save. Regardless of the fact that whether or not it did cross the line, Cam Rowe, leaving it in doubt, actually making this save in what is a fairly wide open net. Great release as well, a tight angle shot, tough to try to hit your mark, put it about where you'd want to put it as a shooter, mid-height, make the goaltender have to take a stab at it with his hand. Nick, it's as good as it gets as far as saves are concerned.
Now, if you want to, and Noah, just because I'm going to play devil's advocate here, if you want to be upset at one thing, if you're St. Cloud, I think you have an argument here. If you actually go back to that corner angle,
sure,
because I think there's actually more that you could see from this. Granted, the overhead is the conclusive puck over the line, but if you can pause it right about here, look where the referee's positioned when that puck hits the glove.
He's like right in line.
Right there, right? So my question is, and this is where, and maybe this is a question for Mike Schmidt, who is the NCHC Director of Officiating. We've had him on the show before. Would be how much in this situation after the call on the ice is made, can the referee go back and rethink about it and say, you know what? I think I saw the puck in his glove at that moment as you're showing it right there, and sync it with the overhead and then make that conclusion, right? Or is it that simple in review? It now becomes all of what we can see and not about what we interpret. I would think it's probably more the latter at that point. But I think if the coaching staff in real time wants an argument as the referee is in perfect line sight there, and did he ever see the puck in the webbing of the glove in a particular time? And again, it's happening so fast, right? We forget how fast this happens. That, was there an argument there? I probably not. But again, I think what we're forgetting here, Noah, is that for a team that didn't play its best hockey, that gave Western Michigan a team that they're chasing in the pairwise, essentially, right? And also trying to keep pace with North Dakota and the NCHC, they gave themselves a point. They gave themselves a chance. This sucks because it would have been really nice to get 2 wins and 6 points. But overall, also you can't give up a 2-goal lead to begin the third. Defensively, the Huskies were exposed a bit in the third. And at the end of the day, what we're going to talk about is their response to that on Saturday night.
Which was very good. And, when I think of Brett Larson's comments, and don't forget, this is somewhat in the moment for him to kind of fresh off of the loss and knowing his team didn't play well. I take Brett's comments with a grain of salt as someone who knew they kind of played like dog shit. They let the game slip away and they still had a chance to come away unscathed. They didn't. And I think that's where kind of it comes more from that frustration and emotion of sometimes in the NCHC, you need a little bit of a bounce. You need to create your own luck a little bit. Still, just didn't happen for the Huskies. My final point here, you talk about the officiating. I'm going to take a page out of the playbook for actually the Minot Minotauros. They have cameras directed at the front of the nets from the press box on either side. If you were truly going to do it right, you'd need essentially multi-cams, one on each side of the rink. But you also look from this corner angle, you also have the weak side official who's up at the blue line. The other thing here is if you have the backside official who sees this play, says, you know what, I think I saw it in the glove at this time. If you have the official that's standing in front of the Western Michigan bench here that says, yep, I saw it hit the webbing of the glove. It went as far back into the glove as it possibly can, which as we can see from this frozen angle here, it's clearly in the net, right? Mm-hmm. Then you can say, you know what, I saw this. Weak side official says, I also saw that. I think this ended up in the back of the net. And then again, if you have an overhead view and the corner view here, like you said, and you can match it up with two simultaneous cameras that are seeing either direction, essentially in that same realm as being at the blue line on either side as the backside official on the blue line. If you can see that as well and say, yeah, well, clearly the webbing is disappearing, you can see this puck going in the net, but that takes time. That costs money. That costs wiring. That costs restructuring, everything like that. The end argument is, Nick, as much as we know from a hockey perspective, like if you brought me up to heaven and you said, here's the difference, I know what really happened as God or whatever entity you believe in, do you think this puck went in the net? My answer to get into the pearly gates is yes. I think that puck ended up fully crossing the goal line. But with the technology we had, with the save that was made, with everything that happened, it was the right call given the circumstances, because the technology allowed it to be inconclusive, whereas in the National Hockey League, and by our own judgment as hockey fans, we can fairly logically make a strong and likely accurate prediction. It was probably in the back of the net, but we just will never know. And the Huskies ended up getting the fate they probably deserved on Friday.
And I'll just finish with this. I think when you talk about talking with other referees, that has to happen before the call on the ice. I think the call on the ice sets the tone, right? And if they make that call, yes, it's the goal. Again, the overhead, I think once it gets to video review, they can only rely on, again, what they see. I'll finish with this because I think it's interesting. It's amazing how we're in the age of where there's generative AI and whatnot. I think most fans have generated AI that the puck was in Cameron Rowe's glove, and I think all of us would be like, that's actually pretty realistic.
Yeah, it would have had to, it would have had to have hit the cheater or the crook of his arm for it to not be a goal, just based on anatomy.
And you do wonder too, as I mentioned before in the group chat, if the camera frame rate was a bit quicker. If you could have seen it, and this is the part that I wonder. Even if there maybe isn't a perfect sight of the puck, but even if the frame rate shows the puck as it hits the webbing, does that make a difference, right? So, again, we'll never know. At the end of it, Huskies feel like maybe they got cheated. As we've said before, this is the correct call based on how they have to make the call. It sucks. We get it, but it couldn't have really been called either, another way based on what we saw. So at the end of the day, as you mentioned, I think Brett would agree. And as his post-game comments, I think were strategically pointed. I think was what we would call Noah is felt like he maybe thought he was going to steal one, didn't, and then decided to, voice some frustrations, like you said, fresh in the moment. I think those comments were accurate. I don't think they were out of line by any stretch of the imagination. Huskies, at the end of the day, as he would say, it's not about how you get dropped. It's not how you can get yourself back up. And that's what we're going to talk about. A much better effort on Saturday all around for the Huskies.
Yeah, as a former Huskies Warming House podcast avid listener might say, that call in his mind was maybe ill-advised. Anyway, that's a throwback that we haven't pulled out in quite a while, but nonetheless, attendance of 4,100 on Saturday. The Huskies do play much better in this one. It took until period number 3 for them to get on the board, though. Both teams scoreless on the man advantage. 0 for 3 for Western, 0 for 2 for the Huskies, who outshoot the Broncos 27-19, 8-5 in the first, 13-6 in the second, actually outshot 8-6 in the third by the Broncos, who tried to make a late push. Nonetheless, the Huskies 32 faceoff wins, 27 losses, a much better response all the way around. Isaac Posh gets the net again, stops all 19 in this one in back-to-back games for him. Very good to see. Vietti Miettinen gets the Huskies on the board 17 seconds into the third period, his 14th of the season. Joey Molinar and brother Werner tallying assists. Then the Huskies cap this one off 17:02 and 18:47, a pair of empty netters, Kyler Kupka and Joey Molinar with their 13th and 8th respectively. Dylan Anhorn, Mason Salquist assists on the first. Vietti multi-point night with an assist on the second. Empty netter multi-assist night for Werner Miettinen, who was the secondary on Joey Molinar. And just like that, the Huskies do take this one by a score of 3-0.
What do the Huskies need to do to break through?
Find the back of the net, get some eyes. There we go.
There it is! And it's 1-0 St. Cloud State! The sniper
pull from his backhand to his forehand and probably go low blocker. I think that'd be a good idea. Oh, my, that just happened. What do you know? Yeah, that's what you had to do. You had to cross the guy's. Where is that gentleman sitting?
Sahlquist wins that critical draw. Anhorn sends it out. Kupka empty net. Scores!
I love this kid. Kyler Kupka's got two bodies on him. One slides through trying to get the puck, but Kyler Kupka is elusive.
Bump with it in traffic, and Yetman's able to push
it
out. Here's Molinar after it. Joey Molinar with the empty net. Scores!
Yeah.
And that is the most appropriate empty net goal.
Oh my goodness! Look at all that hard work along the boards, and then Joey Molinar, and you get a little slingshot here. I love this. I can't tell who set off Sholin or not, but there's a nice little slingshot by his teammate to try and give him an extra pop to get underneath the stick. And you know what? Just out of sheer
Nick, and the thing that I like the most, obviously traffic in front on the first goal from the point. Huskies finally get rewarded. I like both the empty net goals. Win a battle in your own zone, high float, winning foot races to end up capping off the first one. And the second, hard battle on the half wall, guys fighting to get the puck out. Weak side forward streaks across, wins the foot race, gets it done, shields off the defender. Huskies win 3-0. Great response. 4 points overall on the weekend.
And both empty nets, not a slap shot goal. So that means we didn't have any extracurriculars. So that's nice. I had to. I'm sorry. It's been such a topic of conversation that I think that was worth mentioning. But no, to like you said, you got to take advantage of those. And the Huskies, like I said, simple plays. Again, winning foot races and more so winning those battles along the wall and getting it out to the right forwards. And Kupka is the first empty netter, right? The perfect alley-oop, right? That lands right at his feet, just makes that nice cut across to his backhand and a nice little soft play to get it in the empty 4x6. But a much better play overall for the Huskies. Again, 3-0 the victory and getting 4 of 6, right? Yep, 4 or 6 points on the weekend against a team they were chasing.
Hey, and obviously it wasn't the perfect 6 points that maybe the Huskies, or maybe even 5 points that they were maybe hoping for, Nick. But the biggest thing and the most important thing, this was a massive weekend for St. Cloud. What do I mean by that? Look at the pairwise.
Yeah.
They're now in sole possession of 11 right now. Western Michigan right behind at 12. CC dropping now to 15 after the weekend. And then Providence right ahead in that 10 spot, rounding out that secondary group. So, I mean, you're looking ahead at a team that you are facing this weekend, Denver at 6 right now. So you've got an opportunity here. Have to be at least 500 in the final weekend to take 3 out of 4 against Duluth on the season. I think there's no secret about that. But St. Cloud essentially has a chance to, I don't want to say punch above their weight class, but they have an opportunity to kind of gain ground a little bit and maybe solidify and keep themselves a little bit more safe heading into the final weekend of the regular season. Now, quarterfinals, you got to really be careful because the Huskies are likely going to be in a home ice spot, so you got to make sure you take care of business, especially if they get Duluth back to back. If they finish in second, that's a kind of a dangerous proposition there. But St. Cloud could drop, I would say, they have to be at least 500 or better in the last weekend of the regular season, and they can't drop more than 1 to the Bulldogs in that quarterfinal series. They have to punch their ticket to the frozen face-off in that scenario. But the focus here this upcoming weekend is Denver. St. Cloud, if they could get 1, if not 2 victories or take the majority of the points this weekend, could maybe push themselves maybe in that 9 spot potentially and give themselves a little bit more breathing room. Overall, even they didn't play the greatest on Friday, I think it was still an okay weekend. Good building blocks. I'm not unenamored with the play, especially on Saturday. It was very good hockey for the Huskies. Now let's see if they can do it in back-to-back weekends.
And that's the key, right? We talked about this a week, if not 2 weeks ago, that this was exactly the same time that St. Cloud, after a rough January, February, that started to kind of figure things out a little bit, albeit late in the regular season. They went on a nice little run. The difference between last year and this year is that last year they had a really nice non-conference record. This year it wasn't the best, right? So they've put themselves in a position where these points are a little bit more meaningful. And again, taking 4 of 6, and more importantly, essentially getting at least one from Western Michigan. And they got some help this weekend too in the pairwise, right? You love being sitting at 11 as opposed to 13 or 14, if maybe not 15 entering the weekend. They were in official bubble territory. Now, if you can get one against Denver, I think you've done your job. You get 2, you're in a really good spot. But I think, as you alluded to, Noah, that is, you cannot drop one against Minnesota Duluth, period. No matter what. So they're still in a situation where no matter what happens with Denver, and I would, we'll say it this way, if they drop both to Denver, then absolutely you cannot drop one against Duluth. I think you'll be right back to that probably 15, 13, 14 spot, depending on that's, the rest of the league. Because, I mean, look what happened to Colorado College. You jump, 5 or 6, and then you go back down like 4 or 5, so there's still some room to slide up and down, and you're not anywhere near the safe zone just yet. So a lot of work to be done. But again, as you mentioned, not the best weekend, but certainly not the worst weekend for St. Cloud. A lot of things you can build on, but now just try to flip the page and prepare for Denver with the mindset that you have an opportunity to continue to better your position and get yourself in a better spot for an at-large bid.
Big loss to Northeastern for Maine at 7 this weekend. They dropped down to 9, by the way, too, so keep an eye on that. If the Huskies, based on the fact that they've, have Duluth earlier this season, if they win on that Friday night up at Amsoil, series-wise, they're okay head-to-head. So I think if they can just get that first one, takes the monkey off the back. And I'd like to see them play a little bit more relaxed heading into this upcoming weekend against Denver. Just do what you got to do and maybe kind of take a breath of fresh air and play the hockey we know that they can. On the women's side here, we might cruise a little bit quicker through this because not much to talk about. Really, it's going to be a big conversation next week here. Women's hockey all set for the WCHA quarterfinals. You want to talk pairwise, by the way. Speaking of the women's team, no change for them. Did what they had to do with a sweep this weekend at 10, right behind Duluth at 9 in the pairwise. So the fact that they're going to get the Bulldogs this upcoming weekend in the WCHA quarterfinals will not hurt them. So, just continue to try to garner points where you can and try to move on to the next stage of the playoffs. It truly is game on for this women's hockey team. But let's recap this past weekend. Like I said, we don't have video recaps just because of the fact that essentially the women's team did exactly what they were supposed to do this weekend. So otherwise, in the WCHA, the regular season did finish this last weekend. St. Thomas beating Mankato on night number 1, 3-2, and the second night 5-4 in overtime to cap off their regular season. Gophers and Duluth 1-1 final in overtime. The Gophers, I believe, won that one in the shootout, essentially for the WCHA points. And then in night number 2, 4-2, the final for the Gophers to get the unofficial sweep, so to speak, but not really a sweep, if you know what I mean. Then Wisconsin drops to Ohio State 3-1 in the first night, wins 4-2 in the second night for our last game in the WCHA. That was the late night game. So pair of big dogs going up. That series had pretty much everything that we expected. And then if you're St. Cloud State, you had a Friday and Saturday night matchup with the Bemidji State Beavers. And it was the Greta Henderson show. She ended up having a hat trick in this one goal in the first, and then 2 at the tail end of period number 3, including a couple of lasers to seal the deal. Huskies scored twice in the second period, carried a 3-0 lead into the third. Ultimate score was 5-1 in favor of St. Cloud, who outshot Bemidji 27-18 in this one, and also tacked on a power play goal in 3 opportunities. 25 wins, 22 losses in the face-off dot. JoJo Chobak stopping 17 of 18 she saw in night number 1. Exactly the recipe we talked about that the Huskies needed. They repeated it on Saturday. Next 6-2 was the final. St. Cloud actually, despite being ahead 1-0, was down 2-1 5.5 minutes into period number 2. They responded at the tail end of the second to carry a 3-2 lead into the third. They didn't look back with 3 straight goals in this one. Emma Gentry, a hat trick in this one, a natural hat trick to boot at the tail end of period number 2 and the start of period number 3. Katie Kaufman, Taylor Larson, Sophiana Sunderland also scoring as the Huskies outshoot Bemidji 45-20 in this one. Missing on both power play opportunities. They were perfect on the kill this weekend, where the Huskies and Sonia Hola stopped 18 of 20 she saw. I know that's a bit of an abbreviated recap of essentially the weekend, but it's exactly the recipe we wanted from the Huskies. They end up scoring 11 total goals, give up 3 on the weekend. did what they had to do, stayed pat in the pairwise. Now it's essentially game on here, Nick. What did you like from the weekend from the women's team?
They scored.
A lot.
Yeah. And as we talked about in the previous episodes, right, it's the offense that has been really dry the second half of this season. And granted, no disrespect to Bemidji, that's not been the best of seasons for them, and defensively, offensively. But as we talked about, this was a matchup you had to have. You had to have them both in regulation for A, the pairwise, and two, we wanted to see this offensive explosion. You played Minnesota Duluth really close. You lost. You played Minnesota really close. You lost, right? You played Wisconsin, I think, really tight. You lost, right? A lot of it because you couldn't put more than one or two goals up on the back of the net. So getting this amount of offense, granted against not maybe the best team in college hockey, you still wonder if that triggers a little bit of confidence, right? And you kind of hope you get it, because Duluth, you've already shown that you've taken them in December. You got them in a tie, technically a shootout loss or an overtime loss, I think. And then you were able to beat them before the holiday break. So you have done it. But this is now the new season, right? It's a whole new ball game. And you kind of hope that St. Cloud takes some of that confidence that we saw this past weekend, but also looks at this as a blank sheet of paper, right? They have not been out of the quarterfinals in some time. It'd be nice to see them make a change on that, because realistically speaking, Noah, 17 wins in the regular season this year, 18 for last year, so it's very, very identical. But really where this program needs to take a step is in the playoffs, right? Yep. This is where, if you're trying to, sell the idea that this program really has started to turn a corner, this is where they're going to have to show it. I think they have the roster that is capable of doing so. Question is, can they put their best on the ice a couple of nights in a row, get to at least Minneapolis, to, I believe, Ritter Arena, where the WCHA, the last two games were played. I think that's important to this group. Yep. We'll see what they do, right? You hope that, again, like I said, they take everything from this last weekend, they put it together with some of the strong defensive play we've seen from them over the past couple of months, and see if they can irk out a couple of wins and get to a place where no Huskies team has been since, was it 2012, 2011, somewhere in there?
Yep.
Was, I think, the last time they got out of the quarterfinal round. So it's been a while, and yeah, it'd be nice to see that advancement.
17-15-2 in the regular season, 12-14-2 in the WCHA this year, coming off of a 3-game winning streak entering the playoffs, a shootout win against Duluth, and the pair of victories against Bemidji State. If you're looking pairwise, like we mentioned, you hope that UConn, Yale, Princeton, Northeastern, Penn State, any of those teams do not provide an upset in any capacity entering the upcoming playoff weekends here. As far as the WCHA regular season standings, where we finished here before we get to the playoff bracket, Bemidji State was in last at 10 points, 1 point shy of 7th place St. Thomas on the season. Mankato, 18 points, kind of in no man's land at 6th place right there. The Huskies, 40 points on the season. Duluth, 47 points, rounding out the last of the home ice spots. Gophers, 59 points for them at 3. Wisconsin, 69 points for them. And Ohio State, how about the fact, 26-2 in the WCHA, 78 points. But there was a certain team that bested them this year that we may have just mentioned. But all in all, a very good WCHA season. I think we had a lot of intrigue until we kind of hit maybe the last couple weeks of the regular season, where things kind of started to open up a little bit. But we talked about how important a couple of those games for St. Cloud were. I mean, you get the victory against Mankato, you get the victory against St. Thomas, suddenly you're 1 point shy. If you win both of those in regulation against Duluth, things get a lot more interesting going back to last weekend. Nonetheless, as you mentioned, Nick, it's a moot point for them. First round brackets start this upcoming Friday through Sunday. Best of 3 series here in the WCHA first round. Other matchups going on. The Gophers in that 3 spot will host the number 6 Minnesota State Mankato Mavs. 1 seed Ohio State gets Bemidji State at home. The 2 seed faces the 7 seed Wisconsin hosting St. Thomas. And 4 and 5, the number 4 Minnesota Duluth Bulldogs hosting St. Cloud State up in Duluth. 4 o'clock Central is the start for that opening game on Friday, March 1st. Nick, I think I speak for both of us very clearly. Essentially, technically in a weird way, 2-2 was the season split between these two teams, the Bulldogs and the Huskies. Battle of the Dogs in the WCHA quarterfinals, Nick. very doable for the first time in maybe a decade and a half for this women's program. They certainly have the ability, if they played the defensive game they have, goaltenders do what they've done, they supplement a little offense we saw in the first half of the season, very possible the Huskies end up playing hockey the week after this upcoming weekend.
It is, granted, as much as, we haven't necessarily been enamored with their second half, a lot of those have been very, very close games. Very, very close. Again, defensively, they've been good. Goaltending, we've talked about all season between Shobak and Sonia Hola. Both those ladies, outstanding seasons. It's been a luxury to have a 1A, 1B tandem that the Huskies can trot in and out of the lineup. So the question is now, like you said, the supplemental offense. I think that's going to be the key for the run here for St. Cloud. And maybe so from just maybe a mentality perspective, it's tough. It's easier said than done, Noah, but I think this ladies team has to find the confidence too, right? That they can do it. We talked about this with Idalski too, and some of the post-game pressers after some frustratingly close losses. And let's just say that the mood in the locker room feels good. I know that they felt like some of those games they let slip away, but I also feel like they also think they're that close. So you just kind of hope that they take that same attitude, that same approach into these playoff games, know that they have beaten Minnesota Duluth once, technically twice, right, with a shootout win. And the other two, we're very, very close. I mean, it could have gone either way. So St. Cloud, this is the matchup that we thought we would see. Granted, we'd hoped with the home ice host would have been flipped, but this is exactly what we had written up to get to this point. So now the Huskies have to take advantage of it, put the pedal to the metal, and leave it all out there, because I really do think if they do, they got a chance to get it to Minneapolis. I really feel like this roster can do it. Yeah,
and now as we've kind of talked about as well too, just looking at some of these, the top dogs in each of the divisions except for the Northeast, the NEWHA and the CHA are on the outside looking in pairwise wise. So if you want to be technical about it, depending on some upsets, things that kind of happen, the Huskies still technically at 10 could make the NCAA tournament even without winning this weekend, but they would need a little bit of help, essentially, is kind of the way to look at that. In my mind, with 3 games against Duluth, if St. Cloud wins this weekend, I think that might be just enough to push them into that conversation to make the big dance. 10 is just kind of an awkward little spot for them to be right now. Even Duluth at 9, kind of interesting. But if the Huskies can get 2 victories this weekend, I think they probably punch their ticket. Nonetheless, it's been a very good season so far, despite a kind of a rocky second half where they haven't gotten the results. But really, you have to play either literally or figuratively, depending on how the rest of the country shakes out over the next weekend, as if your season is on the line. It's playoff hockey now. You have to play with that desperation. This team has a chance to do it. We talked about it. It's going to take the offensive bounce. And the other thing is Brian Idalski comfortable with the fact that you might have a game where, if you lose one of these games or go down into game number 3 and things get kind of interesting, maybe you only roll 5 defensemen or 4 defensemen. Klara Himlerova slots back up on a forward line here late in a hockey game. Have to be willing to make those kind of adjustments. Goaltenders, just got to kind of stick to the process they've been doing. Defensively, St. Cloud has given themselves a chance more often than not in these hockey games. These Duluth games have been largely low scoring, especially on the Duluth side that we've seen. The Huskies win 5-1 a couple of months ago. This is going to be an exciting week, Nick. It's been a long time, I think, since we've been excited for this team entering playoff time. They've usually had one game in the playoffs where they've given the team that they've been playing a run for their money. This year is one where St. Cloud should be in the mix. If they get knocked out, they should be 1-goal games, overtime games, come right down to the wire. I mean, how about you? You got to be absolutely stoked to see this team finally have a chance to do some damage on the road once again in Duluth.
I do. And you mentioned Klara Himlerova, right? What a asset she has been. Imagine where this team would be without Klara Himlerova and just her upbringing and just her willingness to go wherever the team is needed for defensemen. I think as much as if you need offense, I think you could see Idalski in a game type situation, season in the line, have her pulled up. The problem is with the makeup on the blue line right now, you don't really have a defender that has a good, shall we say, IQ that can get a first pass out there, that can use their feet, that just can lead a breakout like Himlarova does.
Yep.
So you talk about, if there's been one big handicap, and I say that not, I should say this, I say that in a figurative sense, but with the injuries to Grace Rolfe and Reagan Bolger, just not being able to dress 6 to 7 defensemen that are true D, and not being able to have Himlarova up there sparking the offense has probably been a big reason why the second half has been a little bit more, shall we say, not to their liking.
Subdued.
Win-loss. Yeah, but at the end of the day, you take Himlarova out, I'm not sure if we're having the same conversation. I think this team is further in a different conversation than we're having right now. So it's, again, I still think they can do it. We're out to see how aggressive / how Idalski manages it. Again, you're on the road, which means you do not get last change. I'd like to see the matchups that he puts out there. Again, do or die. This team has a chance. Gentry's going to have a big weekend. I think ladies like Avery Farrell have got to find ways to put the puck in the net. So we'll see. If they do it, they've got a chance. And like you said, I think they need to get to Minneapolis to feel more comfortable pairwise. Because if they do that, this is going to be another step, right? And I think that's one thing we have to touch here real quick, Noah, is even if you get to the NCAA tournament, let's just say maybe that the result maybe isn't fantastic. Just getting there and getting themselves on the national stage is still a step in the process. Now, granted, we'll talk about this in further weeks, but this roster is going to look significantly different.
Yep.
And let's just say that the age is going to be swaying a lot closer to 0 than it is going to be to 30 after this year. So we'll put it to you that way. They're going to lose a lot of veterans this year, which is going to be not a great part of the process. But either way, I think the leadership on this squad over the past couple of years, we already mentioned a couple of Gentry, Schoback, a whole lot. They're all seniors. I've got to be commended for the work they've done to get the Huskies to this point. See if they can have a great last ride. They can do it. Let's just hope that they can execute.
Yeah, and that's where we talked about Clara Himlarova. Do you feel comfortable going down swinging? High risk, high reward in certain situations. We'll have to see. It's going to be an exciting week of can't miss hockey in the WCHA. In 2 weeks' time, the men's season will officially be wrapping up. The WCHA final grouping in the playoffs will be wrapping up at that time as well. So in the next 2 weeks, we'll finish out the NCHC regular season. Denver and Minnesota Duluth for the men, and on the women's side, it's playoff time to try to get to the NCAA tournament. That will do it for episode 200. For Nick Maxon, I'm Noah Grant, and we will see you soon in the den.
One-timer coming, they score! Ripped in! A bomb from Pervix!
So Dana Rasmussen fires and she scores! Dana Rasmussen for the Huskies. A long shot.
Dwayne Kaprizov in for a chance to win it. He scores! Kirill the Thrill is for real! Welcome to the NHL, a game winner.
St. Cloud Cathedral is now 42.6 seconds away from wrapping up the school's first ever title.